Before I get into this video, I just want to clarify this real quick. If you're in a relationship and you're in your early 20s, I am not telling you that you need to break up with your partner. And I'm also not telling you that your relationship will not work out. In fact, my parents met when my dad was younger than me. And by the time he was my age, they were married. And now, over 30 years later, they're still together. And here I am. So I'm not saying that young couples do not work out. But what I am saying is that oftentimes relationships that take place in your early 20s come at the expense of something else. And it's on you to determine if that sacrifice is worth it for you. Now, I want to give you guys a little bit of context behind how I came to the conclusion that relationships in your early 20s are largely a waste of time. Now, me personally, I didn't date anybody growing up. For those of you who haven't watched my previous videos, if you're new to this channel, I didn't get my first girlfriend until I was 20, going on 21. This year, actually, January of this year, was when I got my first girlfriend. And I remember at the time, I was so excited to be in a relationship because it was something that I had craved for 20 years of my life. I always wanted that type of relationship, and I had finally found it. And I thought that everything was going perfect in my life. But in regards to YouTube, I was miserable. And to her credit, my ex did a very good job of helping me get through those hard times on YouTube where I was lost and I didn't know what type of content I wanted to make. And I was losing my identity and losing myself outside of YouTube. She was definitely there for me. And in that sense, relationships can be a very beautiful and powerful resource for you. And I'm not saying that relationships should only be seen as a resource for you. I think that love should be the driving factor. But at the same time, relationships can be used as great resources. I think that the best, most fulfilling relationships are the ones where both partners elevate each other. They help each other grow and they push each other through hard times, times of distress. And in my situation, me and my ex definitely had that type of relationship. And it was beautiful. I think that a lot of people were blindsided by the fact that I ended that relationship because they didn't really know what was going on behind the scenes. But to be honest, nothing was going on behind the scenes. The relationship was great. We never had any arguments or anything. It was a great relationship. Everything I could ever ask for in a girlfriend. But sometimes even the perfect relationship is not perfect enough if you don't want a relationship. And that's what I had to realize. That was the conclusion that I had to come to through my own personal experiences. Now, bearing all of this in mind, I have no regrets about being in a relationship in the first place. I think that it definitely helped me elevate as a person, it helped me find myself more, and it helped me realize what actually matters in my life at this chapter. I'm 21 years old, and I remember, like I said, I didn't date anybody growing up, and my ex had a pretty similar history as far as dating goes. She got into dating late, and me and my ex used to always tell each other that we didn't think that we would find the type of relationship that we eventually found with each other. And at the time, it made sense, because when you go so long without dating anybody, or maybe if you've had such miserable failures as the ones that I had in regards to my dating life, it can definitely shift your perspective of time, especially relative to your age. At the age of 20, I thought that my time was running out. And I think a lot of my supporters have that same feeling. I've had people email me or reach out to me on Wizio, which I have the link in the description to that. But I've had people reach out to me and tell me that they feel like it's now or never for them. And they're 20 or 19 or 21. They're young. They don't even understand that their lives are literally just beginning. When you graduate high school, that's the start of your life. Those first 18 years, those first 17 years, however long it takes you to graduate, those don't really count. Your life actually begins when you finish high school, because now it's on you to make your own decisions and to create the life that you want to live. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with me, I have extremely large aspirations for myself. I have extremely large goals, the type of goals that people laugh at, the type of goals that intimidate people, the type of goals that make people think that I have a superiority complex because I want better for myself. Those types of goals. And I have no shame in admitting that. I have no shame in admitting that I want a lot of money. I want to live in a nice condominium in a skyrise with a really nice view and drive a Tesla and just being able to do the things that I want to do, not only for myself and my quality of life, but to inspire you guys to do the same, to show you guys that it's possible. But what I had to realize was that being in a relationship was not the way to get there. Being in a relationship at a certain point was holding me back. And eventually, I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision between love and my goals. And I think that if you're in your early 20s and you're in a relationship, there's going to come a point in time when you're going to have to make that decision as well. Now, different people value different things differently. For example, my parents. Okay, my dad was 21 when he married my mom. And in marrying my mom, he sacrificed certain goals that he had for himself. But he's happy. He's happy with those sacrifices that he made. He wanted a family life. He wanted a more balanced life, right? But balance, to me, I see that as sacrifice. To me, if I have goals that I have in my mind that I truly want to fulfill, I want to accomplish, and I know that are meant for me, that are waiting for me to accomplish them, I'm not going to sacrifice those goals. I'm not going to compromise on those goals for the sake of love, for the sake of a relationship. And I didn't realize that until I got into a relationship. Because for the longest time, the only thing I wanted more than success was a relationship until I actually got one. And then I realized that I have all the time in the world to find love. Okay, right now, like I said, I'm 21. If I were to spend the next 5 years of my life being single, focusing entirely on myself, mind you, during this time that I was in a relationship, I still managed to accomplish a lot of things in my life, especially in regards to YouTube. So if I just focus on myself, I give all of the time and attention that I was giving to the relationship to myself, i.e. reading books, working out, just becoming the best version of myself that I can possibly be. At the end of those 5 years, not only will I be basically a godlike version of myself, but also I'd only be 26 years old. 26 is young, and I think that's what you guys need to understand. If you're in your early 20s, you have all the time in the world to find love. All the time in the world. And I think that the idea of finding things like marriage, wanting that long-term commitment, it sounds good on paper. But when you're actually in that situation, you realize the true implications of that, what that actually means. It means that you are merging your life with that one person. And when you're in your early 20s, it's a very awkward age to date people, especially trying to build long-term relationships, because different people are going in different directions. And you're trying to compromise on your own desires to meet the desires of your partner and vice versa, and you're trying to meet in the middle. But I think that that's where a lot of resentment comes from. People end up harboring resentment towards their partners because they feel like their partners held them back in life. But in reality, they made that decision under their own free will. Back in about May or June of this year, I finally started making enough money to feasibly move out and pay rent and pay for bills and things like that. And I remember I was looking in all of these different places, and I wanted to move to maybe Austin or Las Vegas or just all of these different places, but I was in a relationship and I didn't want to leave my ex behind. So what did I start doing? I started looking at apartments near where she lived at. And that's not where I wanted to move to. That's not where I wanted to move to. I would have been robbing myself of the experience that I wanted to have for the sake of that long-term commitment. And I'm not here to tell you that I have commitment issues, but I do believe that committing at such a young age comes with a lot more than most people realize. A lot of people don't know what commitment actually is until they get into it. Such was the case with me. When I got into that relationship, me and her always talked about wanting to be together for the long term. We talked openly about these things, starting families. We would talk about kids and marriage and things like that. And it all sounded good on paper. But when it was time to actually take action towards these things, i.e., wanting to live near each other and things of that nature, that's when it became a problem for me. And for her, it wasn't a problem, which, like I said, different people have different priorities. For her, balance was more important to her than her goals, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can live a very happy life compromising. But for me, I can't do that. And it took me getting into a relationship to realize that. Now, I'm saying all of this time next year, I could be in a relationship. Who knows? I'm not going to rule anything out. I'm not perfect. I might change my mind on this. But I do know that through my own experiences of being in a relationship in my early 20s for just 7 months, I think I saw all I needed to see. I realized that you can have the perfect relationship, but if you're not ready for one, if you're not ready for what comes with that, then it's not going to be enough for you. And also, I just want to touch on hookup culture real quick because I know that a lot of men will take this as a sign to just indulge in hookup culture. To me, hookup culture is even worse because now you're wasting your time and your energy and you're not getting the benefits of a relationship. You're sacrificing your goals for the sake of instant gratification, which is way worse. Now you're going to have goals unfulfilled and you're going to feel empty inside because of it. Especially because you know that that sacrifice didn't bring you anything but instant pleasure. Pleasure that will be waiting for you when you make it. Like I said, if you're 20 right now and you focus on yourself and your goals for the next 5 years, at 25, you're going to be in a completely different position in life than most 25-year-olds. And I'm not saying that you should compare yourself to others, but you'll be in a much better space than you would have been had you not done that. And guess what? The girls will still be there. The relationships will still be there. They're not going anywhere. Love isn't going anywhere. Women aren't going anywhere. Even hookups, if that's what you want, they're not going anywhere. But you'll be able to enjoy those relationships that much more because you're at peace with yourself, knowing that you fulfilled your goals and you cultivated your relationship with yourself to the highest extent that you could have during that time.